I see two down here, and we're going live now. So people are just coming in. As soon as you go live, everyone just shows up. So we're gonna Beloved has just joined and walked in, and Joanne has just walked in. So we're gonna walk them up, and we're gonna add already. This is kind of like life. We think we have a plan, and then whoosh, the wind comes in, and something else is brought to us. So the question is, and we'll start with Thunder Bear, welcome ladies.
Thank you.
Could you give an example of when you trusted spirit, when it probably made maybe no sense to you, and there was an impact on another individual that moved your heart?
Well, the story that comes to mind goes a little weird, but I remember the conversation before I was incarnate, and I was arguing with a couple of spirits. There was two, I think one or two male spirits, and there was a female presence there too. And because I didn't want to come back to this life, I didn't want to be here because I was afraid I wouldn't remember. And I argued quite a bit, and they left me no option but to come back and reincarnate. And yeah, that impacted a lot of people. It tormented my mom pretty good because I was not an easy child. So I apologized many times for that. So she's no longer here, but like while she was here, there was the first half of my life I was a total pain, and then about halfway through that I started apologizing. So
and so you started apologizing to your mother on that one. We'll just go with that. That could be considered, oh, she got more than she bargained for. However, what are some of the blessings you've given others by being true to your gifts from spirit?
I don't know how to describe that, and I don't know how to describe that. I just, when I do the work that I do, and I see the look on people's faces and watch their expression and watch their life just blossom, and it doesn't happen to everybody, but when I see that, it's pretty amazing. Actually, I'll tell you, this other one just popped into my head, like, and you've heard this, Frederick and Jacqueline have probably heard this already, but I guess about 4 or 5 months ago or 6 months ago, I got a call from a guy, and the first thing he says is, "You saved my life 11 years ago." And the real funny thing about the story is, like, it took me a few minutes to remember who he was because I don't kind of hang on to stuff. It kind of comes and goes. It's like, I don't know. I don't track a lot of things. So anyways, I was seeing this chiropractor, and this guy was going to see this chiropractor because he had something going on, and she was working on him, and she called me because she knows I do other things, and said, like, I don't know what to do with this guy. Like, he's in a lot of trouble. He wants to kill himself and whatever. Like, it was bad. He was in a really, really, really bad way. So I worked on him. And the funniest part about the whole story is that when he left after I worked on him, he's driving home going, "That guy's just a shyster. I don't feel anything. Nothing changed. What a hoax. What a this snake oil sales." Like, he told the whole story to me, like, because he come to see me again in person. And he's telling me the whole story, and it was just absolutely beautiful. And he goes, then within 2 weeks, my life all just came right back together. And he goes, I've been fine since. That was 11 years ago. So, because most of the time I don't see it, right? I don't get to see it. I work on people, and then they go about their life, and I don't ever see it. So that was kind of like a lovely gift that was given back to me. It was lovely. And I love his story about, like, how he was just hating on me so bad because he didn't think anything happened. That's good. That's, to me, that's as good as it gets, actually. Because if somebody lands and they go, ooh, and then they go away and they feel great, it's like there's no good surprise in that. Like, and it's wonderful too. Like, I'm not downplaying that at all, but the fact that he really didn't believe anything transpired was just absolutely beautiful.
We're listening. We're talking about listening to spirit guide us and when we listen to, the question how we listen to spirit and follow the guidance, and it impacts other people's lives. And what I'm thinking is, like, so many times for me, I don't know that I'm following spirit. I'm just living my life. I'm just following, my own intuition. Doing my I'm just doing what I'm doing. And and then I get people message me and say, you know, things like that. You really helped me the other day when you said this, or you impacted my life. I like to do these random messages of kindness, whenever I feel, I guess, inspired. So I am, listening. I'll just shoot off. I'll just pull up somebody and shoot off a message to people on social media, just uplifting stuff. And I do this randomly here and there. And, a large percentage of the time I get a message back, how did you know? I didn't. I just felt like it, and I did. Yeah, I didn't know, but, a large percent of the time, that's exactly what they needed to hear. Or they were really going through something hard and it made a difference. But for me, it's subconscious. I'm just following my own, I'm just going with the flow. But spirit is working through me and guiding me in that way. So that's been my experience lately.
I think that's a great point, is that for me, I think the journey was, there was a conscious part of knowing or thinking about it. And then there comes just a natural flow as you keep stepping into trusting that. And what came to me as you were saying about those random thoughts is, I remember years ago, I was like, it was busy. I know I was busy cleaning the house. I was doing something around the house, and it was like, it was a clear message: stop and go post this right now. And it was, I still remember the post was, the conversation you're avoiding is the conversation you need to have. And so I posted it. I got off social media and went back to what I did. And as you said, it was like a year later, a lady said to me, she goes, "Oh, I've been meaning to contact you and tell you that post was exactly what I needed." She had a situation with her father that she had been avoiding. It was the conversation she needed to have. She just knew. And again, I just, the same thing, Frederick. Like, I just got it, followed it, posted it, leave it, go back. And I feel like that's the beauty of when we can, when we just know we're little instruments. It has nothing to do, we just receive it and put it out there, and we're not attached to it. The magic happens.
I remember when it started. Now, as I'm listening to you speak, Jacqueline, I was a college professor. I was a teacher at college, and I would have, I'd often speak a lot. I'd be lecturing, so I'd be speaking for an hour and a half, and I'd have my textbooks and my subject matter I was supposed to teach on, and every once in a while I'd watch myself take this tangent, and I'm off on something completely off the beaten path from what I'm supposed to be teaching, and I'm just talking about this stuff. And whenever that would happen, a student would walk up and say, "Thank you, I needed to hear that." And that's how I learned to listen to my intuition and to spirit and to my own guidance. That was the beginning for me. I would just talk and talk and talk, and then all of a sudden I'd be channeling, and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know that's what was happening, and spirit would work through me and send the message to the student that needed to hear it, and that was that. And that's how I became conscious about it. That's how I became aware of what was happening and what was possible. I didn't even know that was a thing back then.
I know somebody who knows something about channeling something or other. Beloved, would you like to share?
Would you like a message? Ariel might want to share. So that was the scariest thing for me. My primary guide and teacher is Archangel Ariel. And they came in, I don't know, back in the 90s, I think, and said, okay, now we want you to speak. And I was just so timid, right? I said, what do you mean? Well, we want you to just let us teach through you and give messages and talk to people. And I tried to set boundaries, right? I said, okay, but I don't want to look like Ramtha, because that's when Ramtha was really big, right? CC Knight had just come out, and I thought Ramtha was fabulous. Anyway, so I agreed to do that, except I was a deep trance channel. I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't look. I couldn't do anything. But the more we worked together, then the more fluid it became. And now when Ariel steps in, it's not much different. Years are disappointed because they liked the change, right? Because then they would say, oh, well, it's definitely not you. But yeah, once I was able to just let go and let that come. And I never know what they say, ever, ever, ever. I know when I've been with people and they'll say to me, why didn't you give our message? And I'd say, I didn't hear you. I said, yeah, you heard us. You just didn't know what it meant. So you refused to do it. But it wasn't for you. And you missed an opportunity to gift someone. So that was a learning experience for me. But I don't know what they're saying. But it's always beautiful. And it's always powerful. And now I do it all the time. And now it's good. Would you like a message? Yeah.
See, now I have no experience of saying there's an angel talking to me, right? Like, so this is why I feel like we have to share our own personal experiences, as we each recognize that everybody has a different experience. Then I believe it gives permission for others to be who they are, and we're the kaleidoscope of the universe. And when we allow and respect others to be who they are, there isn't the concept of you're right and you're wrong, or that didn't happen. It just goes away. It's like, really? Right? It's like trying a new dinner, trying a new authentic, you're listening, you're having the experience that you might want to delve into it. You might not, may not be for you. It's all okay, because we're just respecting where everybody's at.
Exactly. I was taking a class with a very well-known mentor, and we were all on a call like this, and Ariel wanted to talk. And I had never done that. I mean, these were a lot of really top entrepreneurs and not particularly spiritual. And Ariel started talking, and I now have like 2 pages. I saved the comments because they were so dear. And it really opened people to another way of receiving, or at least understanding what might be going on in the world, even though it might not be their way. And no one was offended. And that's my big thing, right? That someone will be offended. But yeah, it's wonderful when we're in our hearts. I think it's about being in for me, it's about being in my heart. Yeah. But I had one this time that wasn't there were consequences and outcomes I didn't expect. Because you know how we follow spirit? So I had slacked off and I had stepped back. It had just become too much for me, doing all this online stuff and running my membership and all of that. And in January, I just stopped. And then about 3 weeks ago, I'm writing again, and it's so creative and it's so fabulous. So I sat down and I said, okay, Spirit, I'm ready, but not the way we did it before, right? I can't be scheduled like that. I need my time, etc. And once I committed, I mean, the writing just flowed. And then I had an opportunity. Someone invited me to do a summit. And so I'm writing, and I'm supposed to be on vacation with my very dear friend all summer in California. But now Spirit's here, right? Saying, okay, here. And I always say, I need 3 things, right? Give it to me thrice. So I'm writing, I get the thing for the summit. My daughter calls and says, Mom, if you want to, we're going to go to DR after graduation for 10 days. Why don't you just stay in the house? That gives me 10 days of writing. And then my other really good friend said, hey, we're going to be away for 6 weeks. You want the house? And this is all in Ashburn in the mountains, where I do a lot of my writing. So it's like, oh, okay, Spirit, I get it. I see it. I'm on track. My friend, right? I said, so here's the thing. I need to postpone my vacation with you this summer. And he doesn't operate that way. And he was furious with me. I mean, absolutely furious. And I said, but I got to do what I got to do. If I live my life by Spirit, and that's what I teach, how can I not walk my dog? And then yesterday, I'm in Canada, and I received your message about today. So it was like, oh, yes, okay, on track, on track, on track. So, it's about following for me. You hear it and you just do it, and it'll work out. And I know my friend will ease off and everything will be fine again.
Well, I think that's one aspect, right? When that can look like it's a negative,
Yeah.
when we follow Spirit and someone else doesn't get that.
Yeah.
Right? That because they're attached to a certain way of the outcome.
Exactly.
And that's, I think that's difficult. It was difficult for me the first time. I don't know about anybody else. You want to show of hands? Did you ever have that when you had to? Yeah. So Amuni, do you want to talk about that one?
Yes. I've had many experiences like that, in fact, in my life, because I was born into a very conservative religious space. My mother was a very religious Muslim woman, and as such, I was in a hijab by age 7. She was not allowed to go to school past 4th grade because she is a woman, an Arab woman. And she kind of externalized all of her hopes and dreams onto me. I was her last born and her only daughter. And there was a lot of pain in our life. There was a lot of pain in her life. And as a result, there was a lot of pain in my own. And growing up and wanting to individuate from her and wanting to be my own person was an extremely difficult experience for both of us. And I had to really, despite being the only one in my context and culture behaving in the ways that I did, I had to trust that I had to follow the joy and the curiosity, and that I could individuate and I could trust my desires, even if that got me punished a lot and disowned and hurt and harmed and othered, religiously othered consistently by pretty much every segment of culture. I was a Black child in an Arab non-Black culture. I was a woman in a sexist culture. I was not Muslim in an extremely Muslim space. And I had to root deeper and deeper into, I don't know how I knew, but I just knew that this was not it. And I knew that this was not God. Whatever they were trying to tell me that was God, I knew was not God. And I knew that what I was connected to was closer to God, despite me, having to lie a lot and having to live a double life where, to ensure my own safety, I would have to appease and pretend when I was at home, but when I was away, I would be able to practice whatever liberties and freedoms I had. And today I'm so grateful. I wake up every morning and I'm like, I made it. I am here. I cry in gratitude all the time, because it truly is like a dream. The life that I wake up to every single day is like a dream. And so, yeah, I understand the feeling of the terror that comes with disappointing others, especially people that you love. But I also know that it fruits so beautifully. Here I go. I always cry. So
Thank you so much.
That is such, there's so much wisdom in that experience that you've lived. For like, there's gems and gifts for so many of us beyond what, whoever, it's rippling through the airwaves. And this is, for me, honestly, the gifts of sharing our own personal experiences, because we never know what somebody else resonates with, what it is they needed to hear, like Frederick said, that day, what it is they needed to feel in that moment. And I think the more we can just trust the process of what's coming through us, we continue to touch, move, and inspire, and give permission for everybody else to feel like you did, and have that inner conviction, because that takes an awful lot of courage.
Yes. And courage is really not the absence of fear. It is looking fear in the eye and walking right into it. And the fruits are real. And I'm really grateful that I have nieces that are in their 20s now, that are empowered, that have not lived the life that I lived, because I made sure that they wouldn't. And I know many Arab women that look at me and are able to point their finger and say, actually, you can find a way out, and you will be okay, and you're not going to be cursed, and you're not going to go to hell, and your life is not going to go, to shit, because you decided to trust yourself and go on your own journey. And it brings me deep joy and gratitude every single day.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I just want to, well, first off, I want to thank you for sharing that, because that who you are, I can clearly see you run deep, and that's the reason, right? You're not a shallow person because of those reasons. So they're all blessings, right? And you know that. So that's, in counseling before, I used to say to people, if you've really been to the very bottom and picked yourself up, I said, your level of compassion will be off the charts. It'll be something you really can't measure, as opposed to people that have read a book and go talk about, hey, I'm compassionate. I read this book on how to be compassionate. I'm really, really compassionate. It's like, you're sitting there going, oh my God, just shut up. Really? But anyways, I just wanted to point out the one thing that's common with all this, and it's not, we have a knowing, but it's something that goes beyond our words and really truly beyond our knowing, right? Even though it's a knowing, it's not a mental knowing of any sort. And that's where a lot of people have struggled, because we've been so trained in this world to have our mind be the leader, and it's like, well, I want the answer. Before I walk that mile, I want to know what's at the end of that mile. Like, show me the gold at the end of the rainbow. It's like, well, no, you have to chase the rainbow to find out that the gold was where you were standing the whole time, right? And it's only doing that walk of trust into the unknown is the only path for every single human being. Jacqueline and Frederick have heard this before. I want to be in a room full of people that had already walked that walk, because then the room is just magic without anyone saying a word. And that is the future we are going towards. You know, people that have access to that and know how to walk that is going to be the future of humanity. And you know, we've you know, all of us here, you know, I'm going to be the broken record, keep saying this, we've entered back here at a very, very unique time in the history of the world. It's not an accident. It's definitely not something we planned. And it's definitely not something we know, because like Jacqueline's and Frederick heard me say this lots, you know, where we're going is beyond what we know, beyond anything that's ever been imagined before. Because I can't even really, I can say those words like it'll just be magic to be in a room full 1,000 people that know how to access that spirit, and it just is flowing through them like no tomorrow. I don't even know what that room's going to look like, because that's outside of my imagination, and I've been here my whole life. Spirits flowed through me my entire life, and so like I don't even know what that's going to look like, because I'm used to being, you know, standing in the room trying, you know, not trying to be a shining light, but have strangers walking up to me when I was like 8 years old and telling me their whole life story, and I'm like an 8-year-old kid, and I'm like, oh, what do I do with this crap? I don't even know what to do with this, right? So it's you know, and it's growing. I see it growing, like it's right in front of me right now. So it's just an absolute honor to sit here with all of you. It really is. Like I can't. Now, my turn for my eyes to leak.
Yeah, that's it.
So, I mean, it's I don't know. I'm super excited about the next few months, because the world is changing so fast, and we have to just stay attached to that magic. That's the only way we're going to find our way. It's the only way, because if we stay stuck in our head, we'll usually end up in an argument. You know, we'll usually end up wanting to be right. You know, and we will, when we're stuck in the head, we tend to stick to the original plan, which everybody here knows that almost never works out. I said to someone the other day, you know, they were saying, well, you're supposed to put goals, you're supposed to all this stuff. And I said, when's the last time you said, this is what I'm going to do? And it turned out exactly word for word like you said. I said, yeah, it can happen rarely, but like 99.9% of the time, it's either less than that or greater than that. So, you know, so how important is it to actually set those goals? I'll say it's less than 0.01%. You know, and I said to them, you know, spirit already knows what's in your heart, so you can try to bullshit them if you want, but they already know. So I think that is just probably a game we play with ourselves to trick our own mind into having a back seat, because then you give the mind a task, it'll sit down and try to wrestle with the task, and you get to go about your business. So, yes.
So I was going to pop in there when you said, I don't know what it was your point, but goals. And I was going to go, well, according to Harvard, they did a study in the and those who wrote their goals down had 65% chance or 70, whatever, of achieving them. So, and I think that is the concept of when we get this knowledge, and the knowledge becomes our belief. And then our belief, as Tanya says, we start to spit that out as our own language. Hasn't necessarily been our experience. And I feel that this is kind of, for me, I feel like I'm separating somewhat from that right now, like in a new way. I can feel this transformation happening, and Greg has got 2 phone calls from me the last 2 days going, because I can feel something's happening. The animals are showing up, and they're very calm, and I'm just going like, what is it? So yesterday the call was like, okay, so what's really going on, Greg? You know, and then today, all of a sudden the internet wasn't working, and I was like, well, I got to do this call tonight, and I can't even get my cell service barely on my phone, and I'm going out and I'm driving out, and I'm I'm doing one of these like on the movies where they hold the cell everywhere, and I can't get cell service, and I'm going, so I can't even call my carrier to find out if there's a payment issue or load the app and so I, the guidance I can hear, just go to your friend's house, use their Starlink, and it all worked out. Got that. I found out I had VPN on it, and so it couldn't recognize. It was just not recognizing. What I noticed in my body is that I could feel that this would be a wonderful conversation, right? That it's just wonderful to be with you all, and that we get what we're talking about, because we can go out into the world and it just seems like they're missing it in that same sense. And so I could feel this still sort of trepidation. And what I was noticing, I'm like, I know everything is happening beautifully. I know I saw 2 bears, 2 deers, an osprey, an eagle, this big, huge spider carrying the white sack of his eggs today. It was like, and everybody, and it's all calm. So my habit, I think that I'm still clearing, is this sense that, when you really want to be with, the energy of heart's desires and people that know this magic exists, with following your intuitive heart, your intuition, your inner guidance, whatever you want to call it, that's spirit driven. Can it really happen? Or does something have to go wrong? And I think that's just for me what I'm clearing right now, is that no, it really is happening. I just have to realize, just take a breath. Again, what do you need to do? Okay, so now I've learned, okay, VPN doesn't work if they think you're in New York, when they think you're in New Brunswick, they don't connect, right? So that's my experience, is sometimes, right, that's it, is I really feel there's a big opening. There's so much other conversation out there that something else is going to happen. It's almost like I'm noticing it in my body and going, no, is that really true? Because the animals are telling me and nature's telling me everything's cool.
Something similar happened to me yesterday. It was just very funny for me. I made a fruit salad and it was very delicious. It was pineapples and grapes and strawberry, and I cut some mint leaves, and it was just very delicious. And I was sitting next to my computer, and I took a photo and I posted it on Instagram with the caption, "It's pretty cool being Goddess's favorite angel little baby," or something like the Goddess's princess little baby or something. And then 5 minutes later, I go to the bathroom and my favorite face cream falls and like spills everywhere. And so I took a photo and I wrote, "I'm still Goddess's favorite little baby." It's okay, bye cream, but I'm still her favorite. And then I wrote, "P.S. We are all equally loved, protected, and guided by the divine. I just love calling myself that."
It's beautiful, right? Like
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
We can't let what happens around us, if we identify with it in every single instance, then we'll spend our whole life identifying with way too much, and B, we're not filing it properly and with our mind. Like our mind, as much as I make fun of the mind, it's a wonderful, wonderful tool, but it just needs to be, it needs to know it's not the leader. And what I really just want to point out again is that, like, none of us actually know. We just trust. Then we find out. So it's not about like we have some sort of knowledge that nobody else has got. Like, we can honestly say, I don't know. People ask me all the time about, like, how do you do what you do? It's like, I don't know. No idea. I know when I do it, it works. How does it work? I have no idea. What's going to happen? I have no idea. So it doesn't look good on a business card. So I don't have any.
well, again, that's that getting out of the box, right? it's like all our habits, beliefs, patterns, knowledge have put us in this box. And the picture I drew last weekend was like the box is open. The box is, I think, always been open. But whether we decide to even peek out of the box, right? Do we even want to see what all the other stuff out here that we don't even know? It's like you mentioned, Greg, the same thing about the balloon, the air in the balloon, but if the balloon popped, there's still the air, right? There's still so much more that we don't know, that we don't even know. And we might, like, I like to sometimes think I know. I like to think, that'll make me feel better if I know it's going to work out, right? And ultimately, I've also learned that doesn't even really make me feel better now, because I know it doesn't really work that way, right? It's that sense of going towards maybe a goal, right? Like Beloved was saying, writing, and then discovering how things change and open up. Like an experience I had just the other day in trusting is, I have a friend who he made 5 TP poles, and he's a kilometer back in the bush, and he can get them to the kilometer to the road. And my other friend is going to take them like a half hour over to the river, except the friend that's taking them to the river is now working consistently. And so I was like, how is this going to happen? And I was like, well, we'll do it one morning when it's rainy, because he doesn't work on rainy days. And then it was the letting go. I just let it go. And then my friend in the bush said, you know what? I'm just going to bring them over to the front of the road, and I'll leave them there, and he can pick them up when they are. And then I got the thought, why would you do that? Just bring them to my place. So I said, then bring them to my place. And then I said, he's doing this. And he's like, well, I'm working right now. And then it started to rain. And an hour later goes, okay. And then he came and he picked them up. And then we went and had lunch. And it was all very seamless. And that it was not planned, right? Mm-hmm. It was just watching everybody get their own information and their own decision, and then it all working out. And I feel like that's where the world is going. We don't have to, telepathically, we're tuned into that resonance. And it's just like, I wasn't quite tuned in, Beloved, or I would have known you were down at Niagara Falls, and I would still stayed over there. But hey, close.
Very.
I think the necessary ingredient there is trust. And you have to know what your outcome is, or you have a direction. You got to know what, like in your case, you wanted the poles from the bush to your house, so you know what you want, and then how it's going to happen, you leave that up to spirit, So oftentimes you know what you want. You need to know what you want, or else nothing's going to happen. So you need to have a goal or a direction or destination of some kind, and then stay open to the guidance, right? And then oftentimes you're only getting one step at a time. If it's a big project and there's lots of steps, Spirit only gives you the first one, like the next one. And you can try to plan out the whole project all you want. As soon as you make that first step, the whole universe reorganizes and reorchestrates in accordance to that step you just took. And then the rest of your plans aren't worth anything anymore. So they were worth taking. So it's really just knowing where you want to go, waiting for the first step and making it. And then again, trusting that the next step will show up. And if there's other people involved, like you were just saying, you need to allow time for them to get their downloads or get their information. And so there's a big trust that needs to take place. And there's also, it happens at the speed of nature, right? It happens at the rhythm of the universe, not society's rhythm, not the man-made you know, pace. It happens in a universal way and more in a natural way, like nature flows. And then even sometimes I think about like changes of seasons. You know, it's often one step forward, two steps back. You know, it gets warm, really warm, and then it gets cold again, and then it gets really warm, and it gets cold again, and then before you know it, the season's changed over. But it's not a linear path. And if you're going to walk the walk of spirit, you got to be aware of all of this and be okay with it and trust.
Trust was my hardest thing. Oh my goddess. The trust. I mean, just the trust. And my mother always said to me my whole life, where did you come from? Because I've always done things that I thought everyone else did. And as I grew, and I realized, well, everyone else doesn't do this. They don't live like this. And again, my mother's saying, well, you know, where did you come from? But when Ariel came in, the first message they gave me, they ended it with end transmission. We are complete. No, we are complete. End transmission, which is how they end everything. And I said, yeah, right. And you're an angel? You sound like a Trekkie. You want to tell me you're an angel? And that was what they said, right? Trust, my dear. Trust. So again, when I said, okay, I'm ready now to go to the next place and just trusted, and even though it meant that my whole plans with my friend, I mean, we were in California and traveling and just living our wonderful little hippie summer, and all of a sudden I'm getting all this stuff again that I need to do. I just have to trust. And like you say, it's a step at a time, because I think my experience living a life, first of all, it's seamless. You know, I don't know where I stop or start, or the work that I do, which I don't call work, my playtime, right? I don't know where that starts and stops, because I think we live out of time. We're not bound to clocks, which are artificial. But we live in a world that's geared by the clocks. And I understand that's important. I mean, for some things, it's really important, right? Like, you're going to meet me for tea? Yeah, sure. When? You know, we have to have some sort of organization as well. But it's that those two worlds of one, a world of no time, and one, a world of manufactured time. And following that, when we're made to live by nature. So it's kind of a fine line. It's really fun as it goes. But oh my goodness. I have no window coverings anywhere, because I like to wake up when the light comes up. And when I was in Canada, my goodness, you have light so much longer in the evening and begins so much earlier. It was wonderful. It was really great.
Yeah.
But you know, those are our natural ways.
Oh, you're freezing up.
You froze. You thought of Canada and you froze.
Am I that?
No.
It was beautiful. And that water, the power of the falls, and just having it. I stood on the bow of the boat. I couldn't stop, and I just laughed the whole boat ride. You know, just being in that and doing the water blessing at the falls. And I can kayak once, sort of. But sixes, I mean, the power of nature to be in that place. Magical. It's magic.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
just share on something that Beloved was saying is there is no separation. That's, like for me, my whole life, there's like, as far as I know, I don't have any higher anything. I'm just me. And that's all integrated, and that's all I've ever known. Like people always ask me, do you have guides? It's like, no, I don't know of any. I just, and it's after you've done it long enough, then it's just your way of being. It's not, it's like if you're trying to be peaceful, that means you're not peaceful. If you're trying to be loving, that means you're not loving. If you're trying to be spiritual, it means you're not spiritual. So my mind doesn't wrap around that. I don't understand that. So it's just becomes a way of being, like the kindness and generosity, and that way of being is to everybody. It's not like, love doesn't stop at the border. Love doesn't stop if you wave the wrong flag, all that sort of nonsense. Like love doesn't stop if you root for the other sports team. All the stuff that society, that the box that we were talking about, like that's what school is about. It's training you to identify with the box and identify that you have to build the best box you've ever seen in this universe. And so that's what we get trained into being, right? So, I need to have this sort of education. I need this much knowledge. I need to do this. And then you build this perfect box. And, and if you're paying attention enough, then you realize you created your own prison. And then you spend part of your life trying to break out of that. And a lot of people weren't getting that till retirement. But now people are refusing to build the box at a very young age. And they don't know how to deal with that sort of stuff. So yeah, so like the separation is part of that box. That's all. You know what I mean? Like I was saying to Jacqueline the other day, I was talking about like we used to always think, oh, here's my little bubble, this is my bubble, this is me. And then when the bubble pops, the only thing that disappears is the thing that gives it the confine, that gives us our brain a way to identify it. Oh, that's your little bubble. How cute. Right? And then the bubble pops. Do you still exist? I said 100%. I said, to me, community isn't having a million bubbles touching each other. That's not community. That's still all separation. To me, community is without the bubble. Right? And that visual analogy of it is like, that space is then free from the mind when the bubble pops, and there's no mental construct going, this is who you are. It's like, no, it's more like this is who you are. And that's even very limiting, very, very limiting. So like, yeah, and I'm sure all of you know this, because once you start that flow and you get a feel for that, it just kind of becomes who you are. It turns into who you are, and then just stuff happens. You're not out there trying to be kind. It just shows up, and the opportunity shows up, and you're just kind, and you make the opportunity sometimes, even though for most it would be a struggle to be kind in that moment. You just look at it and go like, this is a tough situation. Like one of my favorite lines that I used to use, and I'm sure it's not perfectly well balanced, but you'll forgive me and judge me harshly when I say it. I used to just to say to people, well, you have a nice day, like it or not. And I'd walk away. And they would look at me like, did he just insult me? Or was he being good? Or what? Like, and their brain would just like melt, right? So I enjoyed saying that. I haven't used it in a long time because I figured that's something that I was a little less evolved spiritually when I used to use that, but I do find it entertaining still. So.
I like that the box analogy, because I partook of many boxes, and in myself now, like you're talking about, there is no separation, and seeing the difference between being inside the box and outside of the box. really, it's when I hear what I find is that these conversations are just, it's like water for a thirsty person. I just soak it up. And I find that when I have conversations here, because there are still a lot of people around me that I'm friends with and know, who are still sort of, you've got to do it this way, and it's this way, and if you don't do this, rah, rah, rah. For me, it is learning to be comfortable in myself and trusting myself that even though I've let go of, I'm letting go of all of this thing that I thought I knew, and standing on my own while everyone else is still going like, no, but you need to do all of these things. That's a bit of a thing for me. And yet I'll make myself do it, even though it challenges me and it confronts me a little. But I really enjoy this. What constantly comes back to me is like, no, there's no separation. It's really simple. Just let go of it all. It's not as hard as you're making it out to be. You don't have to do all of these things. And then it's like people go, but that's what it is to be spiritual, or you should. And it's like, well, what happens if you don't? What happens if you don't do all of these things? Does that make you less of a person? Does that mean that you're going to hell, or you're going to not evolve, or whatnot? If you're God, your creator, your spirit, that's not true. You already are. You don't have to achieve anything. You already are, and that's the separation that people are attached to. And for me, it's like stepping into this is like, oh, this feels really good, but I don't know how to deal with it. And then having these conversations, it's like, oh, thank you. There are people there that I can talk to who know what I'm feeling and have that experience. And it's just really, yes, fresh water. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
I wanted to kind of actually follow up on what each of you said, Frederick, Beloved, Thunder Bear, and Tanya. I like you said, Tanya, it's really like drinking delicious, nourishing coconut water under the sun. These conversations, the conversation about setting the intention, having your direction in one hand, and then surrendering and trusting in the other hand. And that's where the actual magic happens, when you're able to navigate the two, navigate reality, like the tangible reality, with this deep faith in your heart. Oof, not like that's where fire, that's what it is. And there not being, the linear time that we talk about, and even while we hold surrender and like devotion and intention, trusting nature's time, because nothing is linear in nature. Everything oscillates and vibrates, and so do we. So do our life experiences. So do even the dramas of our life. Like we go through these contractions and expansions, just like our breathing, just like when a flower is blooming. Like if you slow it down, it's like this beautiful motion of contraction, expansion. And in order for it to go bigger, it has to get smaller a little bit. And our human minds are so scared of the contraction. We associate it with failure. We associate it with like even Tanya, what you were saying about other people's expectations and their judgments and their standards, and this fear of like, I'm not achieving what this arbitrary expectation that the world and culture and society and like even my own self-limiting expectations, that like I have to achieve this by this, or I'm not spiritual enough, or I'm not doing well in my life. It's really beautiful that we're all kind of, saying the same stuff and empowering each other in this way, because that's the truth. The truth is we are the divine. The divine is us. The universe has no skin cells. We are the skin cells. We are how the universe feels and experiences and laughs and cries, and we think that our experiences of grief are a negative thing, that we should avoid it and only experience joy, but the universe also wants to experience grief. I remember very early in my healing journey, and there was so much healing that I needed to do, because it's a beautiful thing to have had yourself integrated from early on, but that was not my experience. I had to really divide myself and split myself and push my shadow away and become a total people pleaser, and like I existed for approval, because I needed it for safety, because life was not safe for me growing up. My first arranged engagement was at age 14. And if it was up to my family today, I would be somebody's property. I'd be somebody's wife, and somebody's many children's mother, and my life would not be here. And for my own survival and for my own safety, I had to split myself off, and I lived a very fragmented life. And in order for me to come into integration, there was so much work that I had to do. And in one of those experiences and journeys, I remember sitting with myself and meditating and crying a lot. There was a lot of grief that I had to release, because so much of my pain was suppressed in order for me to survive. And it was in a stage of my life where my inner knowing finally told me, you have survived. You've survived, and now you can allow yourself to let go of your survival mechanism, things like people pleasing, because it's manipulation, it's dishonesty. You have to tell the truth, even if it's terrifying, even if it's if it feels like you're peeling your skin off. You have to stand in your power. You have to practice your power. And then when I didn't understand why am I crying so much, I was told tears only mean that it's raining, and rain is necessary. I was like, what? That is amazing. And so I allow myself to cry, and there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of whoa, people are judging you because you're so emotional. But now I embrace all of me, and I love even my emotionality and the fact that I'm a crybaby. I love it. I accept it.
That's lovely.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, beloved. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to just say something about the box analogy again. When we talk about, when I was saying, if you're trying to be spiritual, you're not. You're trying to be peaceful, you're not. If you're trying to get out of the box, you will always be inside the box. And for people that can't fathom the box, then what I just said was utter gibberish. Because it's just, as soon as you understand that there is a box and that you self-created it, the box can just dissolve. It's probably the easiest day of your life, until you run under the thoughts that are built into the box still, right? And then you just look at them, go, oh, there's that wall I created, and it just vanishes. I know years ago, I did some work on this one guy, this lady brought her son to see me, and he was in a bad way. Again, this one was a suicidal thing, all that sort of stuff. So I worked on him, and I didn't realize I took on everything, because I almost never do that. But it's really, really rare. And my wife comes in. I'm at another house, and I'm in the garage, and my wife comes up, and she goes what's going on? You're struggling. What do you need me to do? And I just looked at her. You can judge me all you want, but I just looked at her and said, just leave me alone, in this harsh voice. And she just looked at me, her eyes watered a bit, and she turned around and went for a ride in the car. And then, because I witnessed it, I went, oh, there you are. And it was gone. It was gone in an instant, because I could identify it. It's oh, there it is. No, that's enough. Thank you. I didn't get mad. I didn't try to beat it up. I didn't try to throw it out. I just recognized it for what it was, and it dissipated instantly. I called my wife. I apologized up and down, and she understood, because she knew it wasn't me. But yeah. So that's back to that box thing, right? As soon as you go, oh, there it is. It dissolves. It's so easy. It's not like all these books that we've read where it takes years of arduous work. like all this stuff, peeling layers. It's like, be the joy in the layer. When you find it, it's like, oh, there you are. Wonderful. And then it's a great experience instead of like, oh shit, I got another layer. I suck. I'm not worthy. Like all of that whole other box related analogies. It's just like, find the joy in the flaw. It's beautiful. It's a great day when you can recognize it and say, oh, there you are. And when you do it honestly, it dissolves with zero effort. Okay, I'm done.
That was the best thing for me. One of there's been lots of them, but that was one of the best things for me, was, like you said, finding the joy in the flaw, even when it's something that is not enjoyable for me, or it's a challenge or whatnot. Being able to find the joy in it, or of the experience of it, even so, that's just been a big game changer for me, because now I have my experiences. I have, as talking with Jacqueline yesterday, the past 6 months, there's been stuff going on, but I always find something to be thankful for and find the joy in it.
Mm-hmm.
Even so, and that's just been like from a lifetime of feeling inundated with it's always wrong, I'm not right, it's not good enough, blah 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 blah. So this is, I go through my experiences that are challenging and just like, yep, this is like icing on the cake. It's great. I can get some joy from it now. Yeah.
That's lovely.
Yeah, and I just would like to say that I feel like when I thought everything was just going, I was always sort of one step ahead by trusting my inner guidance, right? That at one point was how I was ahead of the wave. And then it seemed that spirit was like, well, you don't know everything. Okay. So we're now going to give you, it's not like you're ahead of the wave. It's like, we're going to give you an issue. And then the issue is, how do I deal with that, right? Am I looking at that from that lens that, oh, that's a problem now. Oh, I must have not been listening. Or am I in the experience? Am I and when I'm looking at the experience, then I'm noticing, as I was saying, that it's like the ticker tape of the old thoughts of in the box. Or it's like picking up the box, that you've stuffed under somewhere in your house, and you pull it out when you move and you go, oh, you remember this, right? And you go, yeah, don't need that, right? Oh, don't need that. But you've been saving the box for whatever, 2 years. And then you go, okay, yeah, the box is all gone. And I feel like that's kind of what needs to happen. Is my experience is I had to see some of the habits and the stuff from, let's say, the shadow side, and go, can I still giggle and have joy at, wow, you used to be so attached to that, right? You used to be like, ooh, that was a wrong thing to do. That means, da 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 da. And instead of going, wow, I really did that before. Wow, that's so stupid. And laugh at yourself, or laugh at myself, and realize it's a really completely different world now. And this is a wonderful conversation, and I want to do it again. And I want to give anybody at the point now, if they have an opportunity to finish off with what's bubbling up, an honor that, we've been on for just over an hour. So if you have to keep going, or you want to finish up, it's up to you guys.
I just want to share with you, Jacqueline, that I am absolutely happy to laugh at you when you need someone to laugh at you with you.
967, call Greg. I knew I could count on you.
I think it's good. It feels good. We should save ourselves for another journey.
So why don't we just close off then, and we'll just take a minute. Let's just open to breathe. However, just to relax, and if you're willing, Greg, you can just wave your magic wand? No.
Always willing.
Okay, and then I'll just click off the broadcast. And if anybody that's watching the same thing, just open up and receive at this moment, because energy is all around you, always is, always there. We're just getting present to what already exists.